$4 billion. That's how much Americans are projected to wager on March Madness 2026, more than double what was bet just 3 years ago. But here's what that money is actually doing to college sports. Right before tip-off this year, a federal grand jury in Philadelphia indicted 26 people, 6 fixers, dozens of players, 17 programs, 29 games allegedly rigged. The gambling industrial complex has officially moved into college basketball, and the NCAA is scrambling to figure out what to do about it. Let's put that $4 billion number in context, because the growth here is not gradual, it's a steep climb that keeps accelerating. Back in 2023, the March Madness handle sat around $2.2 billion. By 2024, it jumped to roughly $3.7 billion. Now H2 Gambling Capital is projecting $4 billion for 2026, and that's a conservative read given Missouri just launched legal sports betting in December 2025, adding a whole new state's worth of bettors to the pool right before the tournament. Every time a new state legalizes and goes mobile, the pie gets bigger. There are now 38 plus states with legal sports betting, and the March Madness window is the single biggest retail moment the industry has every year. People who never bet on anything else will throw $20 on a bracket or a first half spread just because everyone around them is doing it. Now here's the math the sports books don't advertise. Of that $4 billion handle, operators collect roughly $279 million in net revenue. That's the house's cut after paying out winners about a 7% hold rate. So bettors, on balance, lose $279 million betting on college kids playing basketball, and the books pocket every dollar of it. Compare that to what the NCAA actually makes from its own tournament. The deal with CBS and Turner pays out around $1 billion annually in media rights. That's the tournament's primary revenue engine, and it's genuinely massive. But the betting market is now 4 times the size of that media deal, and the NCAA controls none of it. Zero. The sports books are generating $279 million in pure operator revenue off a product the NCAA creates, regulates, and owns, and the schools see nothing from that transaction. That asymmetry is the real story here, because when you don't get a cut of the money flowing around your product, you lose leverage, and when you lose leverage, you lose control. And what happens when you lose control? That's Section 2. So the NCAA is running a $1 billion tournament. Sportsbooks are making $279 million off it. And what are the actual players seeing? Let's run the numbers. Across all of Division I, total athlete compensation for the 2025 to 26 academic year, that's revenue sharing plus NIL combined, comes to roughly $2.3 billion. That sounds like a lot until you realize it covers every sport, every school, every athlete for the entire year. The new revenue sharing cap sits at $20.5 million per school, and the way most schools split that money, football takes 74 to 75% of it. Men's basketball gets around 15 to 18%, women's basketball gets 2 to 5%. Everything else splits what's left. So a player at a mid-major program, a 17 seed say, or a 12 seed might be clearing $30,000 to $50,000 for the full season if they're lucky. That's real money, but it's not life-changing money, and that's exactly the gap fixers are exploiting. The federal indictment unsealed March 24th lays it out in detail. 6 fixers, including Jalen Smith, Marvs Fairley, and Shane Hennon, allegedly recruited 39-plus players across 17 Division I programs. The bribe structure was simple. Players were paid $10,000 to $30,000 per game to miss the spread, not throw the game outright, just miss by a few extra points or underperform in the first half. The fixers would place bets worth hundreds of thousands on the fixed outcome and collect. The FBI built the case on texts, calls, and financial transfers, including crypto payments designed to obscure the trail. Prosecutors describe a 2-year operation running through the 2023 to 24 and 2024 to 25 seasons, with games involving players at schools you wouldn't expect. One detail from reporting on the case that sticks with me: a player cited having a newborn at home. Fixers reportedly targeted athletes in exactly that situation. Low profile, low NAL earnings, real financial pressure. A $15,000 cash offer to shave a few points in a game your team is expected to lose anyway. Probably doesn't feel like organized crime when you're 20 years old and stressed about rent. The NCAA separately banned 6 players permanently for ethical violations connected to related betting manipulation. Former Temple guard Hyzier Miller admitted to betting on his own team's games dozens of times. These aren't isolated incidents anymore. They're symptoms of a system where $4 billion is flowing around athletes who are only now starting to get paid at all, and fixers know exactly where the gaps are. That's the temptation gap. And the NCAA's attempt to close it, stick around, made things measurably worse before it got better. Here's where the NCAA's response gets genuinely messy. In October 2025, the Division I Administrative Committee voted to loosen the betting rules. Specifically, they proposed letting athletes and athletic staff bet on pro sports and elite international events like the Olympics, while keeping the ban on college sports wagering in place. The thinking was reasonable enough on paper. These are adults in a commercial system now. NIL is real. Revenue sharing is real. Treat them like adults. That proposal lasted about 6 weeks. On November 21st, more than 240 Division I schools voted it down. 2/3 of the membership rescinded the change before it ever took effect. And the timing was brutal for the pro deregulation side. October 2025 was also when federal charges dropped against NBA and MLB players for using insider information in betting markets. The NCAA's proposal to let athletes bet on pro sports landed right in the middle of active federal investigations into pro athletes doing exactly that. The vote wasn't even close. So the full ban stayed. No betting anywhere on anything for athletes and staff across all divisions. But the NCAA didn't just go back to business as usual. The policy scramble produced a few concrete moves worth paying attention to. The biggest one, for the 2026 tournament, all participating teams are now required to submit player availability and injury reports before games. First time in NCAA history. This is a direct response to the insider information risk. Fixers and sharp bettors were exploiting injury information asymmetry, and mandatory disclosure is the simplest way to flatten that edge. The ProHiBet monitoring system now screens more than 22,000 contests per year for suspicious betting patterns. Integrity partnerships between conferences, schools, and sportsbooks are becoming standard operating procedure rather than optional add-ons. Firms like IC360 are now essential infrastructure. Compliance is quietly becoming a core business function inside athletic departments, not a checkbox. The NCAA is also still pushing states and operators to ban college player prop bets entirely. Player props bets on individual performance like points scored, rebounds, assists are the highest manipulation risk category because a single athlete can control the outcome of that specific bet without affecting the game's result. Adoption on that front is inconsistent. Some states and operators have moved on it. Many haven't because player props drive volume. And here's the business reality underneath all of this. FanDuel and DraftKings are generating massive revenue from college sports with $0 flowing back to the NCAA or the athletes. No integrity fee model exists. The NFL floated a 0.25% handle cut proposal years ago. It was never adopted. The NCAA gets nothing, so the schools are essentially subsidizing a $4 billion market, absorbing all the integrity risk, and watching operators pocket $279 million in revenue off their product with no financial participation whatsoever. The program's building real compliance infrastructure now, monitoring partnerships, athlete education, rapid reporting systems, are also the ones positioning for betting data licensing deals and sponsorship protection down the road. The ones that don't are one scandal away from losing both. The $4 billion isn't the story. The gap between who generates it and who controls it is. If you're building a career in sports business, the fastest growing roles right now are in integrity and compliance, and the next revenue frontier is betting data licensing. Drop a comment. Should the NCAA get a cut of the $4 billion handle, or does that just make the integrity problem worse?